Hey everybody, you are all very welcome back to Revenue Hacks. We are delighted to have a great show today all about sustainability, because sustainability and eco-friendly is all about Raise Up, what we're all about. It's great initiatives or Raise Up chapters, and a lot of countries have held talks on this, so it was only time for Revenue Hacks to do this. And we're talking about sustainability, not just in the hospitality industry, but also across the world, what we can take home from the show today to be able to increase or eco-friendly or eco-consciousness at home. So without further ado, we're going to get around the table to say hello to everyone, because I do know Tahir has got a really big presentation to start sharing with us, so we're very conscious about it today. As you all know, I'm Khristina Quigley. I've been with Revenue Hacks since day one, and I am from Hoist Group. So we're going to go with Silvia.
Hi everybody, this is Silvia Cantarella. I've been in hospitality and revenue management for 16 years and now working in revenue management for independent hotels as a consultant.
Calvin.
All right. Calvin Tilokee, CEO of Revpar Media. We work with hotels and other hospitality businesses to share your story on social media.
Thibault.
Hi guys, my name is Thibault. I'm the founder and managing director of Catala Consulting. We do revenue management for independent hotels across Europe. And very happy to be here. One of my favorite topics today, actually.
Sheila.
Hi all, I'm Sheila Krishnan from SK Consultancy. We offer revenue management and commercial services for hotels in the UK and Europe. Lovely to be here too.
And last but not least, Tahir.
Hi, I'm Tahir Naqvi. I'm the founder and director of Circular Innovations. I have 25 years of experience in corporate sector, working in the area of product development, R&D leadership, and innovation.
Amazing. And thank you so much for joining us today, Tahir. This has been amazing, kind of reading your slides over the last few weeks and getting feedback from the rest of the team. It's something that we're all very conscious about. And we've kind of learned a lot more about the initiatives that we're all taking internally and externally to be able to bring eco-friendly and sustainability a lot further along within the hospitality industry. So do you want to kick off with your presentation?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for inviting me. And I'm happy to talk about sustainability today. And what I will try to do in this presentation is talk in general about sustainability, why you should care, where our world is right now, and how we can have a better world and a different approach going forward. So I would start with my first slide, where I would just ask you guys to imagine what would the world's response be if an asteroid was going right to hit the Earth. What will be the reaction of the whole world? And you could imagine that if something like this was going to happen, all the countries would come together and everybody in the world would come together and create a response to do something about it and to avoid that crisis. Now, the situation today, when we talk about sustainability, is something very similar. Yet we do not have the same kind of response, just because we don't see it, and it's very difficult to see what's going on, and we don't realize the impact of what we are doing to the Earth. So if you just look at what is happening to biodiversity loss, just in the last 40 years, we have had 68% fall in population of animals between 1970 and 2016. And with this fall, you can see that we are overusing the Earth's biocapacity by at least 56%. And if this continues, we will not have enough plants and animals to sustain life on Earth. And you can imagine, if there are no plants and animals, the human population also will not survive. One of the things that is happening is because of deforestation, and a lot of deforestation is also happening because it's commodity driven. So like when you use a shampoo, you use palm oil in it. And where does that palm oil come from? It has to be grown in some part of the world. And that is what we mean by commodity driven deforestation, where you clear the land, you clear the forest, and plant big lands of palm trees. And that is done basically to feed our day-to-day life. Further, we are having a big population. So we also see, because of shifting agriculture and because of demand on forestry and urbanization, we are losing forests. And almost half of the Earth's original forests have gone, and most of it has been destroyed in the past 3 decades. And you can imagine that forests provide habitat for 80% of plants and animals that live on it, and we are losing forest at a rate of 1 football field every 6 seconds. So that's the kind of rate we are destroying the forests.
I think that's a very interesting conversation when we're finished talking about the likes of how we can help with deforestation within hotels. I know that backstage Silvia did mention some really cool initiatives that she's working with. So we look forward to having that conversation after the presentation.
Yeah, so moving on, if you look at the other big issue, which is climate change, you can see how the CO2 concentration in atmosphere has increased. So you can see since the start of industrialization, we have really jumped up in the amount of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases that we have put in our atmosphere. And all this basically leads to climate change. And climate change is not something which is far out in the future. You can see that it's happening, and it's happening now. So just 2 examples from last week. We had 49.5 degrees C temperature in Canada last week, and we had a landslide in Japan, which killed a lot of people. So in both these events, you can see how the impact of environment degradation and climate change is coming, and we can see this happening now in our own life. The other big issue that we have is the waste we are creating. So you can see the amount of waste that is being created here. In the developed countries, you don't see this out because they are put in landfills, which are again covered with a lot of greenery, so you don't see it. But if you are living in a developing country, you could see these piles and mountains of garbage in some of the open fields around the world. And this is something which is mind-boggling now, because the amount of garbage that we are putting in is gone to a level which is unimaginable. The other part that you can see is the waste in water, and the amount of waste that goes in the water is very clear with the pictures that you see. And you can also see the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, where a lot of garbage that is dumped accumulates because of ocean currents. And it is estimated that we dump almost 1 garbage truck a minute in the oceans. And that's the rate at which it is going. So the big question is, why is this happening? And one of the big reasons is the growing population. At the start of industrialization, the population that we had was about just 2 billion people. And now we are about 7 billion people on Earth. So obviously, with this increase in population, the consumption has also increased, which you can see that if you are a person living in a developed country, you are contributing to about 15 tons of CO2 per person per year. And if you are living in a developing countries, you are contributing to about 5 tons CO2 per person per year. And if you do the calculation, you will see that with the current consumption level, if we continue like this, we will need 1.5 planets worth of resources to sustain ourselves. And if everybody in the world is consuming at the UK level, you'll need 2.5 planets to sustain ourselves. And if you think about the US consumption levels, we all know it's the highest there. You'll need 4 planets to sustain ourselves. So simply, this is not something which is we can close our eyes and continue to do what we are doing. Just taking a step back to look at why this system is the way it is. One of the things that you can see in our take, make, waste society is that we assume that we have infinite resources on one end, and on the other end, we assume that we have infinite regenerative capacity of the earth. So we extract resources from the earth, we put them into production, and we take it to distribution and consumption, and then to disposal. So if you look at this whole system, it's a linear system, but you cannot run a linear system on a finite planet. So ultimately, someday you will run out of resources, and you will create so much of waste that it will not be possible for the earth to regenerate itself. So our current world is only 8.6% circular, which basically means that 91% of whatever resources we take from earth, we are unable to bring it back to nature. So we convert it into waste, and only about 8.6% we are able to recycle back and put it back into the nature. The rest goes as waste. And if we continue like this, it's no brainer that we will run into issues very soon. The other beauty of this system is that when you go into a store, you see this nice packets, you see this nice stuff, and everything packaged in a nicely branded way. But what you don't realize is that to put that product on the shelf, there has been lost a lot of resources taken from the earth. There has been a bit of pollution that went into it, and there has been degradation of environment. So you pick any product from the shelf, it has some impact upstream, and it also has some impact downstream. So upstream, we are extracting resources, creating pollution, and downstream, we are creating waste, which affects the life on Earth, which affects the other plants and animals that live on the planet. And the key to this, the key driver of this system is basically demand creation. And how do we create demand? It's basically through marketing and advertising, doing planned obsolescence and also perceived obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is basically you make a product so that it does not last that long, and the consumer comes back to buy the product, and that's the way you generate business. And perceived obsolescence is something that you see in fashion industry, that you would throw out a garment which is perfectly fine, it is perfectly usable, but you just throw it out because it's no longer in fashion. And these fashions change, and they are made to change. They don't just change by themselves to create more demand. And by creating demand, we put pressure on the earth on one side, and we also create issues like waste and more migration of people, and also affecting the mental health, and creating more cities which result in urbanization of everything. Now, you would say that all this is fine, but we do need this system because we all depend on it, and we need the economy to run so that everybody has a job and everybody is has a good life. So we kind of assume that this system works very well, and we need this system to sustain ourselves and everybody in the society. But if you look closely, you will find that this system basically is designed in a way that it makes the rich people more richer and the poor more poorer. So if you see, the wealth of 2,000 people in the world is equal to the wealth of about 60% population on Earth. And if you just look at the last year, 82% of the growth in global wealth went to top 1% of the wealthiest people in the world, while the bottom 50% saw no increase at all. So clearly, this system is not equitable, and it does not help everybody in the same way. And it is kind of lopsided, and it impacts the people who don't have enough in a negative way, and people who already have enough get richer. And the heart of this basically is around profit maximization. And as you see, we take money from the banks and the stock market. We put it in consumption-based business models or product-based business models. And then this system basically generates more money and gets it back to the banks and the stock markets, and the whole cycle goes on. So the question is, how can we create a better system? And that would basically start with looking at our paradigm. We always, when we talk about the economy, the society, and the biosphere, we think economy is the most important thing because we all depend on it. And we need the economy in order to sustain ourselves. But basically, we need the biosphere because that's the basic thing. It needs, you need the biosphere, and it's the superset that contains the society and the economy. So if you are able to preserve biosphere, you will be able to preserve society and economy. But if you are not able to do that, you cannot have an economy or society without the biosphere. So focusing on solutions, one of the things that we can do is to look at our systems and look at how we can have a better system. And it starts with a model where we are able to regenerate environment. And how do we do that is basically by minimizing resource input and maximizing waste prevention. And we kind of run our system in a way that we optimize environmental, social, and economic values. And we keep it in a way that we are able to regenerate the environment and not go beyond the planetary boundaries. And here we can learn from nature. If you look at nature, nature is 100% circular. So here you see that with natural producers, we are able to produce food from sunlight, soil, and nutrients. And basically, this chain goes to animals because animals depend on plants for food. And what happens when you throw anything back into the nature? It regenerates itself. So you eat an apple and throw it back in the nature, what will you get? You will get an apple tree. So it's kind of a regenerating process, and it's 100% circular compared to 8.6% circular what we have in our economic system today. So we need to move to a circular system. And how do we do that is basically starting with renewable energy, using natural capital, which is non-toxic and non-depleting to natural resources, using new revenue models, like instead of ownership, paying for use. So one of the examples here I can give you is from Philips, where they have the Philips pay per lux model, where the consumer wants light, but they don't need to have a light bulb in order to run their business. They have a model where you just pay for the lux that you use, and the light fixtures remain the property of Philips. And by using this model, there is an incentive for the company to make the product as durable as possible, and not to make the product in a way that the consumer has to come back and buy more and more. So you make a product only so much durable that you keep the product interesting enough for the consumer. The other things in that are product design, taking reuse, repair, and designing the product in a circular way, so that at the end of the life, the product can be taken apart in a way that it can be recycled. And finally, we look at supply chain collaboration, where instead of every company looking at their own supply chain, we collaborate on platforms, and waste of one company becomes a raw material of another company. And then we also look at longer lifespan of the products, and we use the products parts for much longer, and we make durable products that last much longer. So again, these are some of the strategies that you can use. You use circular resources and energy supplies. You use resource recovery from waste. You use industrial symbiosis, which is basically interdependency of industries on each other. You use product as a service instead of trying to have product as a basic business model to increase your business. So what is the future? If you look at the future, the past of sustainability, and you look at the companies, how they used to operate, it was basically profit comes first, and then come the people and the planet. And this is now where we are now, where people, planet, and profit are basically seen as things which are kind of equal. And it is believed that you can still have profit maximization along with people and planet in mind. While when you look at the future, what will happen is, as people become more and more aware of the issues, and as the effects of climate change and environmental degradation come closer to us, you will find that planet will become the sole requirement for you to do a business. So it's a prerequisite to get into business. So planet comes first, people come second, and profit remains, but it's something that you do to maintain the viability of business. So that's where I see the future going. And with the new generation of people and new generation of consumers, we are going to have much more emphasis on this. And sorry about that. And finally, you see how the role of companies will change. Today, what companies are accountable for is only the middle part. And in future, the companies are going to become accountable for both the effects which are upstream and downstream. And with this complete responsibility for the companies, you will see a lot more emphasis on sustainability, and a lot of government regulation and self-regulation will come in, and the companies will have to take responsibility for the complete value chain. And finally, I would say it's not about quantity, it is about quality. So if you look at how we run our systems today, it's always running after the quantity, but in future, there will be more emphasis on quality, and people will realize that we need to, in order to sustain ourselves, we need to be conscious of the environment. So with that, I'll open the stream for questions.
So I think what's really interesting is that, you know, a lot of the stuff we've been very conscious about over the last while. However, we did have a conversation backstage together as a team of how hotels can bring this initiative on and how we can, you know, illustrate different examples that we're doing within the hospitality. It is all about guest communication, for instance. Silvia, you mentioned a really cool piece that you were doing, that you work with some hotels that are working to deal with deforestation. So can you let the panel and everybody know what you're working on? Again, because obviously we've heard it in the background, but it's really cool.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Tahir, for the presentation. And one of my points is that the most important thing is to keep on raising awareness and communicate at all levels, because only with that we can all move towards the same direction. At hotel level, besides the classical things that we all can do, and it's not just about, you know, eliminating the plastic straws. That doesn't mean to be sustainable. We have to do much more. For example, in some properties, we are offering the guest the possibility to give up on the room cleaning, and in exchange, we give him as a gift a tree. So actually, we bought some forests in some parts of the world. It may be in Africa or some other planet or some other locations, and the guest has a code, and he can plant the tree physically online and follow the story of this tree. So this tree is not only helping deforestation, so helping on the environmental sustainability, but also social sustainability, because it's helping a farmer to sustain his wealth. So this is a very, very simple thing. I have other hotels that are working with local farmers, where they are supporting the development of bees, so to be bee friendly, as we were saying in the back before. So there are a lot of things that we can do. We just need to be creative and think sustainable at all times.
There's only one thing that needs to be done for sustainability is homemade Nutella. So yeah, make sure to stay tuned. Khristina will share the recipe after the wedding.
That would have been an awesome segment. Absolutely. Yeah, you should teach us how to make it right now.
I can tell you guys, homemade Nutella is actually way better than the original, and it is just wow. Oh my god. No wonder I run so many miles every weekend. That's all I can say. This is the only way.
The one will get your homemade Nutella from
that in a mug.
In a mug. We're all mad about the mugs. But actually, while we're talking about mugs, let's talk about hotels, because at the moment we've actually been going through COVID situation. Everyone's had COVID for the last 16 months. We're all fed up of it. However, with COVID, it's actually had to come down to hotels using plastic, paper boxes, disposable cutlery, because everything had to be individually packaged. So, you know, we've seen some hotels have been doing an amazing job at this. Some hotels haven't been doing an amazing job at this. And a lot of the branded hotels in particular have been really focused on using biodegradable boxes. Do we think biodegradable boxes is the way to go in the future, that, you know, the likes of breakfast to go and, you know, coffees will actually become a lot more individualized, breakfast will become a lot more popular as we go forward? You know, we've had it for 16 months. So if there's any particular travelers that have been traveling, they're very used to it by now. Do you think they'll prefer it rather than having the big buffet where there was a massive amount of food waste?
Well, I mean, that's something I've seen actually pre-pandemic in a few hotels that, you know, where I worked, you know, room service was starting to come in those biodegradable containers. I think as long as you're educating your guests about what you're doing, I think the majority of travelers are going to understand that. People are going to understand why you're doing that. I mean, I think we've become accustomed to with the towel situation in hotels and things like that. But it's become about awareness, right? If you just check into a hotel and no one's cleaning your room and nobody's changing the towels, you're going to wonder why. We need to educate the guests why we're doing these things. And I did want to add one point to what Silvia said earlier, because I visited a hotel recently, the Montage out here in Laguna Beach, California. They do a great job with the farm to table. They have a farm out back that supplies all the restaurants, and so basically all their restaurants make just what's in season, which is amazing. What's even better is they have a kids area, like a learning place for them, where they learn about, they have their own little farm in there and they learn about everything. So I think that is a huge deal, where you're teaching that next generation. And I learned something. Did you guys know stevia was a plant? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, the sugar base.
Yeah. It's like you basically just take the leaf and eat it. It tastes just like sugar. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it.
That is like a huge thing. There's a lot of people are starting to grow stevia, especially vegans, because they want to have that alternative for sugar rather than actually using sugar itself. Thibault, I have to come to you because all I can see is your head moving with everything we've been saying. I can see eye rolls, I can see nodding, I can see shaking in the head in disapproval.
Yes, I agree and disagree at the same time. So that's always a good answer. But I believe leave the choice to the guests to decide what they want. Meaning, like, if they want to have the towels changed every day, be it. But if they want to have to be more eco-friendly and to have the towels only changed once a week, be it as well. But leave them the choice. Same with the breakfast buffet. For example, if I go to a Four Seasons and I pay $2,000 a night, I cannot afford it. But if I was in this segment, I will. I wouldn't want to have my toothbrush in a bamboo stick and a brush with whatever charcoal in my mouth. Same with a breakfast. I want to have the full buffet experience. I want to have my towel changed every day because I pay the $2,000. I'm not saying like I want, but you see my point. I believe sometimes some people, the luxury and the eco sustainability is definitely something that can match. But you need to leave the choice to the guest to decide what they want. If not, if you decide for them, then you'll have some complaints, and that's where we need to make sure it's respected.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100% agree. I actually I worked at a property where we did make that change, to those biodegradable to go type of room service, and we had a long-term guest that he hated it. All he wanted to do was eat on a plate. And the guy ended up going staying at another hotel eventually because we couldn't deliver that to him. You know what I mean? And this is, the ADR of that hotel was mid 300s, right? So I completely agree. Yeah, there needs to be a choice for a guest. But I think if you approach it from a standpoint of this is what we're doing. However, I think that's how it works now. However, if you want your towels changed every day, you can get them, right? But we're not going to unless you ask us.
Again, it's again a bit about educating. I remember when I used to work for Starwood, and we had just luxury properties. We gave the option to the guests to make a green choice. They knew exactly how much they were going to spare in terms of water consumption, energy, and everything, and in exchange they get extra points. So it was absolutely their choices, but you need to tell them exactly why we do that and what you're going to do of good for the environment. Sorry, Sheila.
No, it's all right. I mean, because I think the key thing about sustainability is thinking about the future generation, our future kids, the kids, and, so it's not about being selfish now. So it's not just about educating the hotel, but I think it's educating the entire nation of the world in a way, because people need to be be considerate. It's not exploiting all the resources now and leave nothing for the future generation. But I want to come back to Tahir here because he showed these circles between past, present, and the future. And profit is a huge focus for hotels. Big time, especially you have but in the hospitality world, you have the branded management hotels, and then you have the franchise hotels. So when it comes to the specific goals of these hotels types, profit focus is very, very different, and from the franchise world it could be huge. So how can can we measure the hotel today that they are, because there are a lot of sustainable efforts out there already, from laundry focus, vegan diets, locally sourced produce, etc. But then how can the hotel measure right now, this is what our sustainability efforts or rate is, and how can we improve? Because if you look at the brand objective, they have a goal tracker. By 2030, we're going to do this, reduce water what's that word, conservation, and etc., etc. So individually, from a hotel perspective, how can they measure that this is where we are? Is the asteroid hitting us? How far are we from the asteroid hitting us before, so we can then come back to the profitability element and people element and product element? If long-winded question there. Go on, Tahir.
Yeah, so basically it starts with measuring. So are the hotels measuring how much energy they are using and how much water they are using, and what is the CO2 footprint of the hotel? So when you do a assessment of where you are, then you can look at where you want to go and how you can reach the goals that you want to reach. So I think it starts with measuring and having metrics around the basic things. One is energy, the other is water, and the third is the resources that you're using, like in terms of the plastics or in terms of the food that you source, because food is another big issue. And for the hotel industry, if you are unable to have food supplies in future, that's a big issue. So I think it starts with the measuring and keeping a baseline, and then from baseline you create some targets of where you want to go, and then try to achieve those targets.
I think it's really interesting because you do touch on the food aspect, and a lot of hotels in particular at the moment are actually going towards cheaper food suppliers and cheaper food, which means that the food that they get is a lesser quality, so it does decay quicker. Sometimes if you get, a box of fruit, like a box of oranges, and there could be 50 in the box, 10% could almost be ready to go away. So I think it's down to hotels to make that conscious choice of the selection of the food suppliers that they're buying from, but also, how they manage that waste. So for instance, are they putting it into the right compost box? There's certain restaurants here in Ireland that actually have this really cool composter out back, and everything they use goes back into, as Calvin mentioned, a farm to table aspect when it comes to dining. And I think that's where people need to really start focusing. They also need to start measuring the waste that they're sending out. So, consciously, duty managers, operation managers should be in the kitchen checking to make sure that food waste is going into the right box. Recyclable waste that is clean and dry goes into the right box. And then you can measure how much is being lifted by the bin people or your waste management company every week, every 2 weeks, whatever way it is. But I also think it needs to go down to supplying of linen. So is the linen that we have sustainable? Are the companies that we're using for this sustainable? Do they make sure that there's no leaks? Are they using the correct amount of water? I think when I was doing some research for this last week, I was actually quite shocked to see that on average, an occupied hotel room can actually use 100 to 200 gallons of water every day per occupied room in a hotel, especially in the US. That is absolutely crazy when you're looking at it in the size of water. So are the hotels now going to change to censored taps? So that reduces the amount of water that's being used, because how many times do we all have stories? Someone has left a tap running, the water is running through someone else's floor, out through the lights, out through the spotlights. We've been there, we've seen it. The same thing with the shower. Do the showers have the aeration heads in them that actually conserves water? It reduces the amount of water that we're using. I actually started to look at this for my own house because, again, I'm just conscious of water when it comes to water consumption. It's there. I'm in a country where it rains. Someone turned the tap on 2 days ago outside and it just never stopped raining. It's only sunny today. But, we need to be very mindful of this. And we also need to be mindful as well, as Silvia mentioned, and I think everyone said it as well, it's about dealing with customers in a paperless environment. All the hotels have been trying to move to paperless environments for years and years. However, there is that element, as Sheila so rightly said at the start of the conversation, BEOs, business reports for sales meetings, they want everything on paper. An event could be 12 pages, so how do you go back to, being conscious about that? because that's just waste. It is a waste. And what happens when you give a guest a paper bill anyways? They're either going to lose it or it just goes into the bottom of their bag and they're never going to have it again. Never sees the light of day.
I think that the pandemic actually, in a way, is helping a bit to be more conscious also on that and to at least save a bit of paper because technology came into place. Let's think about the very simple things about menu printing. The menu printing at our restaurant, nobody's printing menu anymore. We are all using like the digital and the QR code to check the menu. So also in the room, there are no room directories anymore. So you're using like smart TV or any other devices in order to check it. So this might look like little steps, but they are huge if you think that all the hotels in the world are doing that. And if we all move again towards the same direction. At the same time, the fact that we are not having the view for breakfast anymore, it's again another great thing for sustainability because how much did we waste before? And how less are we wasting now that the buffet is served or you are using, as you said, disposable boxes or whatever it is, biodegradable boxes. So I think that this is really, again, putting our mind into work, but the guests and the customers are noticing it as well and are becoming more sensitive to this. And I was mentioning before, there are plenty of studies out there that have been rolled out over the past year about the approach of travelers to sustainability. And the researchers are saying that more than 70% of the people that are interviewed are looking for hotels that make sustainable choices. So being sustainable is now becoming a filter, a criteria when people are looking and booking. So you want to be there. It's about sustainability, but as we say, it's about profit. You can look either ways,
I think that's really important. And I think it's very cool that, a lot of our people that have been watching today, especially Rajesh has mentioned that it needs to be a hospitality industry worldwide that needs to take this on board. There is a lot of boards, tourism boards that are trying their best to help hotels with this initiative, like Vulture Ireland here in Ireland, and the UK Travel Board and Visit GB are trying their best to increase sustainability within hotels. And I do think there needs to be a conscious effort in everyone's mind. I do agree with Eva, though. We need to find a substitute for wooden spoons. Eva is the producer of Revenue Hacks, and Eva is so true. If I have to eat one more salad or something off a wooden spoon, I'm gonna lose it. I can't. It's just
it tastes wood. Like you seem like you're eating wood when you use this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what's weird? We use chopsticks, and you don't feel that way with chopsticks. But a spoon,
but you don't. No, we're not even with a spoon, right? You don't bite.
Right.
Right.
I can't eat with chopsticks. I can't use chopsticks.
Oh yeah.
No, that's the worst part. I have an 11-year-old who still is trying to teach me how to use chopsticks 7 years later. I'm terrible with chopsticks. But I'll come up with my own cutlery if I have to, rather than actually use wooden cutlery. It's like bringing your own coffee container. And it's down to, as well, people bringing their own containers with them. For a while, we've seen everyone starting to bring coffee cups with them during, before COVID. And all of a sudden during COVID, coffee shops actually stopped taking the reusable coffee containers because it wasn't safe. I think we need to go back into that, carrying your own. Oh, Erica. Hey, Erica. Erica is a Revenue Hacks and Rise Up member. And Erica's saying she carries her own bamboo cutlery set. Well, you can tell us, Erica, where to get the best ones that don't taste horrible. Don't ruin the food. And Andrew Jenkins has just said that chopsticks are polished, by the way. So that's why you don't get it.
I learned something today. I didn't know that. Thank you.
But I think we need to go back as well to, the coffee shops and the restaurants and everyone starting to be a little bit more conscious again, starting to encourage people to buy a reusable coffee cup, be it a Keep cup or, some sort of branded one, like a Pat's one. Or, having something else that they can actually use. And then you have like plastic bottles. Bring a plastic bottle with you. We've started to see here in Ireland an increase in local governments actually putting down like water fonts that you can actually fill your bottle in a water, just like in the UK. Ireland are very slow to catch on to things sometimes. But, now you can actually fill your own water bottle at the side of the street. And that's a great initiative to be able to encourage people to actually start using their own products rather than actually, constantly buying bottles of water.
You just do like they say on vacation, save water, drink beer.
Nostalgia.
I will tell you something. I have a sustainable guru at home. My wife is very into sustainability, and a few years ago, she made us go to a bamboo shops when you have like cloths of bamboo. Okay, and she made me buy some bamboo underwear. And let me tell you something, it itched like crazy since.
I love it. And actually, there is an ad on TV, on the UK TV, during the whole Euros about bamboo underwear for men.
No, bad idea.
Well, I'm not going to do it. Don't worry. But thank you for that comment, because I will not look into it right now again. But I do think, while you're talking about underwear, fast fashion is a huge problem within the world itself. The likes of Zara, Primark, Boohoo, Pretty Little Thing, they're constantly changing the sizes of the clothes so that we as women especially feel like we have to buy new clothes because we don't fit into ours anymore. And fashion changes are changing so quickly. I've traveled the world. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. But what was my big shock horror, and I was saying this to hear about 2 weeks ago, is when I went to Africa and I just seen all the clothes that we donate or else we throw away because we don't upcycle in landfill sites in Africa. And it's the same thing with technology. Tahir mentioned in his slide about actually upcycling or reusing or finding a way to make more tech products more sustainable. And I think that's something that people really need to look into right now, especially because we are so flimsy when it comes to tech. The latest phone that comes out, I have it. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm not even going there.
It's totally true. I've got like a little notebook that I bought to my daughter, and it's normal paper, believe me or not. It's a new frontier of sustainability.
But I know that, but I'm not going to mention that. Actually, Booking.com did actually hand out notebooks about 4 years ago that were actually made from recycled toilet paper. I have one sitting over there in the corner. I have it sitting in a corner staring at me in the plastic that it
is that the brown book?
Not from humans.
Yes.
Animals. No, okay, this paper was from animals, not from humans. Come on.
Oh, that's much better. Much better. Yeah. I mean, that makes all the difference.
How can animals use the paper, Silvia? Revenue hacks, solving all word problems, I'm telling you.
That's the question.
I think it's interesting is Andrew Jenkins put a comment in there saying that when the Eden Project opened up, they started using bamboo cutlery, but changed to stainless steel as was more sustainable. Not washing cutlery, etc., for COVID reasons is a false safety. And in my view, as someone still has to handle the cutlery and to bin it. So why not wash it? I totally agree with him, 100%. But I think we need to find ways to be a lot more eco-friendly when we're washing, because we stick everything into the dishwasher. And we've seen it in hotels. Some kitchen porter can actually pop in one pot, one cup, and a few pieces of cutlery and slam down the dishwasher and let it do its thing. That is a massive amount of water to be wasting. And that's like one of the biggest ways that you can cut down. I actually, when I was doing, again, research for the show, it was really interesting to see that different cities charge different prices for water consumption in each country. And I think obviously, especially, in Ireland and the UK, it's...
And you'll see.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy though. We're surrounded by water, and yet, different parts of the country are cheap and different parts are expensive. Like if you live in, some parts of rural Ireland, it's really expensive. But if you actually live in the cities, it's cheaper. It's just mind-blowing. That's affecting your profit, Sheila, just saying. But anyways, I've just realized we've actually gone well over the time today. Tahir, thank you so much for joining us. It is great to have you on the show. We are back next week. Don't forget to join us. Same bat time, same bat channel. Poor Tahir, I feel sorry on him. He's had us all asking loads of questions and commenting today about this. But thank you so much, Tahir. Your presentation was really, really insightful, and it's brought a lot of food for thought for us and also for our audience. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.